So starting with the ingredients, here's the top row. That's the cake. Here's the filling, lots of eggs, yeast, whole milk. Here I'm mixing the yeast and warm whole milk so that the yeast activates. And while that is activating, I'm mixing the dry ingredients, flour and sugar in a stand mixer. The recipe recommends a stand mixer just because the dough gets a little tough to work with, but I'm sure you can use a hand mixer or anything like that you have. Here I am adding the yeast and milk mixture into the dry ingredients, and then I let that run until it's crumbly, just well incorporated. So this is what my mixture looks like, and then I go ahead and add the separated egg yolks to the stand mixer. I lightly beat them, so I just took a plastic fork and scrambled them a little bit. Sorry, I was filming myself and my camera fell, I didn't notice. So I add the vanilla extract, salt, and then you'll see I have softened room temperature butter that I'm going to be adding in little pieces, so not all at once. And you're gonna do this on a medium or medium to high speed. You'll know your dough is good when it starts to form a ball like that. And then that's when I add the butter. So you'll see in a second here the texture changes to more of a creamy consistency. You want to let it keep running, and then eventually you'll get a nice ball again. So I then take my ball of dough, put it in a separate bowl, which I will be putting in a warm room to let rise. I cover it. This for me took about an hour and a half, and I just scrape everything out. So before you cover it and put it in a warm room, the recipe said to sort of lift it around the edges and make it into a neater type of ball. I'm not sure why. I think it has something to do with the formation of the dough in the end, because this is not going in a cake pan. This is just going to rise in the oven. So yep, you see I'm just turning it into a nice neat ball, and I put that away to rise. That's rising. I am working on the filling, so I'm warming whole milk on the stove. I'm getting my egg and egg yolk, salt, cornstarch, sugar, vanilla extract. I'm getting all that measured out and going. So first eggs, then the cornstarch. And now the sugar, you want to make sure you are leveling off your ingredients. You see, I just take my finger and scrape it across. And then checking my recipe, love to see it. Then I'm going to whisk that really well. Make sure you tap your whisk against the side of the bowl to make sure you're getting everything out and mixing really well. I didn't get a really good recording of this, but you're going to be adding warm milk into the eggs, so you want to be super, super careful doing this. I had my mom help me spoon the milk into the eggs just so that we weren't adding hot milk all at once. So that was what it sort of looked like at the end. We took the process really, really slow. You pour the mixture back into the pot, get it back over the heat, and you'll see in a second here, it thickens up really well. This is when you'll add the vanilla extract. Again, be super careful about adding your hot milk to your eggs. And then you'll see here I cover it in plastic film. You want to make sure you press it down onto the custard. So by then, my dough has risen. Yay, don't deflate it willy-nilly. You're going to take the same process that we did before, which is get around the edge of it and sort of tuck it under into a nice ball. Here I have my lightly floured surface. I'm getting my dough ball out after it chilled in the refrigerator for an hour, I believe. And I'm trying to roll it out into a 10-inch circle. So you see, I just sort of try and go in a circular pattern. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Yeah. It also helps to have a ruler handy. My dad wanted me to flex and show you guys that I got it about 10 inches in diameter. And carefully transfer it to a parchment-lined baking sheet. I then take my egg that was set aside to beat, lightly beating it with a plastic fork here, sort of the same process as earlier. And then I'm just going to brush it lightly across the entire top. The recipe calls for Swedish sugar or pearl sugar. Instead, I just took regular coarse white sugar I had at home, sprinkled it across the top, and pressed it in. It's hard to get this even, but it didn't end up making that big of a difference, I don't think. The sugar didn't make that big of a difference. Pop it in the oven, get the filling that we worked on out, mix it up. I forgot to record this step again, but I took a quarter cup of heavy cream, whipped it with a whisk, and once it got peaks, I folded it into our previously made custard. Appearance from my dad because I didn't trust myself to cut this in half, but you will have to cut your cake in half once you get it out of the oven, and you're just going to take a serrated knife and try and get it as close to even as possible. You want to make sure the bottom is thicker than the top. You don't want it doesn't have to be perfectly even, but yeah. So then I take my custard, put it in a plastic bag like we talked about, little life hack, and I piped it in the middle. You don't want to get too close to the edge because you will be putting the top back on, so you don't want it to come around the edges. And there you go. You'll see I put the top back on, and we have a tarte Tropezienne. The recipe recommends to chill it for about an hour to 8 hours after you make it, just so that the cream has time to settle.